Over millions of video games have been made since 2011, but only one can be considered the most influential of all time. Back on September 22nd, 2011, an iconic video game so influential was released that it sparked an entirely new gaming genre, the Souls-like. You already know by the YouTube video title, this is all about Dark Souls 1. Without the development of Dark Souls by FromSoftware and its publication by Bandai Namco Games, a well-known supernatural creator of games, Hidetaka Miyazaki would have never led the Dark Souls series down a path of generational greatness. With Dark Souls 1, Miyazaki was able to mastermind a passionate team who is now flourishing in today's world of non-stop advertisements for battle passes, cosmetic items, and options to pay to win. The Souls-like genre of games basically started here with Dark Souls 1. Surely I've seen some of the Souls-like games that have blown up in the past few years, like Elden Ring and Black Myth Wukong. These games have taken over with their classic approach to gaming. You simply level up a character and beat bosses that increase in difficulty. It only took a trilogy of Dark Souls and one huge release of Elden Ring to make the genre become super mainstream, but here we are. The greatest day for Dark Souls 1 fans happens 7 years after the release of the original, when the remaster, ported by Polish studio Q-Lock, was released in May of 2018. Prior to the remaster, Dark Souls 2 and 3 debuted to the world to complete the Dark Souls trilogy and solidify the brand as a staple in gaming. The 7 years in between Dark Souls 1 in 2011 and the Dark Souls Remaster in 2018 led to 5 surprising facts that forced FromSoftware to remaster Dark Souls 1. Aside from the fact that it was a complete masterpiece, why exactly did Dark Souls get the remaster if they could have just made a Dark Souls 4? Well, first off, the remaster gave more power to more players. Next-gen consoles of the time, like the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, could now support the game on 4K resolution and 60 frames per second. Even the Nintendo Switch received its own version of the remaster. Next-gen consoles weren't the only ones hyped for the remaster, because the Windows port quality was a massive improvement to what they were playing on before. Before the remaster, PC players had only one option: a port of a console game, and that's all FromSoftware ever promised to deliver. This was locked to 30 frames per second, plagued by resolution issues, and often required fan-made mods just to even run the dang game properly. With Dark Souls 3, FromSoftware proved that they could deliver technically strong titles. So this left the original Dark Souls trapped in a state that just didn't sit right. This remaster was a chance to give PC players the version that they always dreamed of, the one they deserved and the one that matched the quality of its Dark Souls legacy. Secondly, the success of Dark Souls 3 in 2016 didn't just close out the trilogy, it reignited global interest in the Dark Souls series. Players were praising Dark Souls 3's fast-paced combat, redefined boss design, and polished world building. This was a culmination of everything the studio has learned since DS1. DS3 quickly became FromSoftware's most commercially and critically successful title. It sold over 100 million copies and earned numerous Game of the Year nominations. But more importantly, it reminded millions of fans where it all began, as Dark Souls 3 reintroduced some key locations from Dark Souls 1, like Lordran's and Orlando. After the success of Dark Souls 3, the demand for a modernized return to DS1's Lordran became too strong for FromSoftware to ignore. FromSoftware had an opportunity: revisit the world that it all started, but this time improve the multiplayer experience in a few different ways. Now dedicated servers were used over a P2P system, player count increased from 4 to 6, and password matchmaking was added. These slight improvements to the multiplayer functionality in the remaster make sense for the game. It catches up to speed with what Dark Souls 3 has to offer. Outside of improving the gamer's experience, FromSoftware moved towards the remaster since it is much less resource intensive than building a fresh title from scratch. Remastering Dark Souls 1 is a low risk, high reward move. Developing a new game from scratch requires years of concept art, design testing, and narrative building. A remaster, on the other hand, is all about refinement, not reinvention. And for a studio that was preparing to shift its focus towards Sekiro and later Elden Ring, a remaster allowed them to keep the fire burning, both creatively and financially, without overextending the team. The Dark Souls Remaster was a perfect bridge between eras that reconnects veteran players and onboards a new waves of fans before the next big leap. Finally, let's just be honest. FromSoftware knew that Dark Souls 1 was just way too fire not to remake. If you beat DS1, you know this game deserved it. At its core, Dark Souls 1 is widely regarded as FromSoftware's most perfectly interconnected world. Every shortcut, every elevator, every hidden door connects back to the Firelink Shrine in ways that feel intentional, rewarding, and alive. There's no fast travel until halfway through the game, so you earn your routes, and that design philosophy combined with its punishing difficulty makes Dark Souls 1 timeless. FromSoftware knew this wasn't just any old title. It was the game that defined their identity, and so they didn't just remaster it for profit, they remastered it to immortalize it in 60 frames per second. Be sure you sub up to the channel, the Soulsbound Duo. You won't want to miss our next video covering why Souls-like games are not for everyone. Drop your favorite boss from the Dark Souls series down in the comment section below, and see y'all on the next video. Peace.